jeez. But hey, Chan.
What is it? Are you gonna make fun of me again?
No, it's nothing like that. I was just wondering, how long are you gonna be staying here?
Amu stares at me. Why does her gaze so intense? Her eyes, really very green. Piercing. I'm only gonna be here for 2 more days. I leave on Thursday evening at 7 p.m.
Huh. Just 2 days then. Well.
Ow! Because I wasn't expecting it, my shout of pain goes unchecked. It's far too loud. People turn to give me curious stares. Are they worried that I'm being assaulted? No, I feel like telling them don't be alarmed. My life isn't in any danger, although that might be debatable. It's just Amu, my childhood friend, beating my back so hard to my spine might break. Of course I don't say that. I don't really like talking to strangers. Neither do I like being stared at by them. Amu, by contrast, doesn't seem to care at all. In fact, I think she relishes it.
Well then, you'll simply have to make this trip one to remember, alright? Do your best.
The voice is so loud it's making people stare more.
Right.
Of course.
So, Achan,
What is it?
how are you getting home?
Why do you want to know? Are you planning on stalking me?
Of course not, silly. I already know where you live. If I wanted to stalk you, I could just go ahead and do it.
You know, that doesn't make me feel any better.
My dad's gonna drive me back to the village once the cafe closes. Do you want to get a lift too?
Well, I don't know.
I have my bike, maybe it won't fit. My dad's car is pretty big, just like his mouth. There'll be enough room in the back, so don't worry.
I waver, unsure. Since Amu's offering, it might be rude to refuse. But I do find her dad ever so terrifying, and I'm sure he'll ask me lots and lots of awkward questions. Questions I'd rather avoid. Go home with Amu. Fuck it, we're going for Amu. I can't be bothered. And so I end up getting a lift home with Amu's dad. Although I know very little about cars, I know enough to realize this car is pretty old. The interior smells funny and the seats look worn and frayed. It doesn't help that Amu's dad seems to be driving too quickly. As the car speeds along down the country roads, I feel myself being jerked about in the back seat, my body shaking like a pinball. Sitting in the front of the car beside her father, Amu complains bitterly, her arms folded.
This car is such a piece of junk. Why don't you get a new one, Dad?
Because times are hard, sweetheart. Times are hard. We've got to make every penny count.
If that's the case, maybe you shouldn't be driving so quickly.
Nonsense, nonsense. Driving fast is part of being a man. It makes me feel young again. Besides, I've been with Yukiko for almost 20 years now. She can handle it. She's a reliable kind of woman. Yukiko?
Dad calls the car Yukiko. It's his thing.
That's right. I could never part with it. She's like the wife I never had.
You do have a wife, though. You're married to her.
Amu's dad laughs, slapping the steering wheel of the car in good humor. His hands are so large I worry that it might split the wheel in two. Too true, too true. Your mother is a good woman, dear, but she isn't quite the same as old Yuki here. I mean, a man and his car, they have a special bond, you see. Sometimes that bond is even tighter than the bond between a man and his wife. Anyway, my boy.
Yes?
I'll tell you a story. An exciting tale of how I became the Prince of the Land. It's a story for men. About men. It'll really get your blood pumping.
Oh, jeez.
Even though I can't see her face, I'm sure Amu's rolling her eyes. I keep trying to tell Amu here, but she just doesn't get it. She's not a man, I guess. Don't think like one. Even though she acts like one.
Come on, Dad, cut that out. It's annoying.
Now, dear, some people are interested in stories like this. So, I'll tell you a tale. A tale about a man and a trout. And so, Mr. DDSAC launches into a very long, very detailed, very boring, and very loud rendition of his heroic fishing feats. I sank lower and lower into my seat, the whole while muttering things like, "I see," and "how interesting," so he knows I'm listening. I don't think he'd care even if I wasn't. It's clear Mr. Jogasaki isn't interested in having a conversation. He just wants somebody to talk at and boast to. Now that I'm in his car, trapped with no means of escape, I have no choice but to listen. "So, lad, do you know how large that fish was?" "Well, you do, don't you?" I don't know how big the fish you caught was. I couldn't possibly imagine, sir." "Ah, there's no need to be so polite. There's no need to call me sir. Plain old Kentaro will do." "Oh, yes, of course. But I still don't call Mr. Jogasaki that. It would seem wrong somehow, given he's such a towering figure. It'd be like calling a mountain a molehill." About the fish. It was a trout, you know. A big one." Emma rolls her eyes. "Dad, do you have to? You've told me this story about 1,000,000 times already." Now, Emma, don't get exaggerated. It's more like 5 or 6, maybe 7 at a push. But I'm not being prideful. I'm not being arrogant. I'm simply sharing a darn exciting story, that's all. And you've got to admit, it is darn exciting. You wouldn't understand, Emma. Fishing is a man's world, you know, and only men like this, like me and this young lad here, can understand it. You know what I mean? I'm wondering how Mom even puts up with you. And so I spent the entirety of the awkward car journey being shouted at by Mr. Jugasaki as he tells me the darn exciting story of his various fishing exploits. Fucking 2 points to Mr. When I get back, it's already starting to get late. I talk to my grandparents for a while and sit down for another family meal. Grandma really is pulling out all the stops now that I'm back with them. The meals aren't excitingly extravagant or complicated, but the quantity of food is really ridiculous. Did Mother tell her I was particularly glutinous before I came back here? Maybe she's playing a practical joke on me, trying to pay me back for the time I accidentally overwatered her beloved gardenias. Hope you like it, dear. Miss Tachibana brought over these sprouting onions, you know. She grew them in her own garden. Ah, Miss Tachibana. I remember her. She used to be my teacher. The only teacher in the whole school. As my grandmother talks fondly of our neighbors, I start to feel the color rising to my cheeks. God, this is boring. It's not. I'm just tired. It's kind of embarrassing, but when I was younger, I kind of, sort of, maybe just a little, had a tiny bit of aggression. I ate my food with a red face, staring down resolutely at the floor. Noticing my discomfort, my grandmother laughs. I wonder if she knows. Even though I never told her about my childish crush, I wouldn't put it past her. That woman knows everything. Come on, dear, eat up. Let's have some more meat on those bones. Thanks, but I sigh. I'm not really hungry. That might be the case, dear, but this is for your own good. If you eat my delicious, rejuvenating food, you'll never grow old. That's how I've maintained my good looks over the years. I don't know why I'm getting to this voice. And besides, she smiles at me craftily, if you eat a lot, you'll become even handsomer, and then you'll have the girls chasing after you. Grandma, too young to think about that kind of thing. Ho 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 ho. A likely story. I got married to Joe here when I was only 17, and I haven't regretted it since. Too young indeed. But not even 17 yet, so that's still far too early. It's never too early to start planning ahead. The early bird catches the worm. I don't know if I should think about girls as worms. And I don't think you should start counting your chickens before they've hatched either. Oh, yes. You have to do your best. Your grandma will be rooting for you. I appreciate the sentiment, but rooting for me in what? Well, you know, this old woman hopes to live to see the birth of your some cute great-grandchildren one day, you know? Great-grandchildren? Yes, yes. I've started to knit little socks already. It's the only thing that keeps me going. Mm-hmm. It'd be nice to have some little nippers around here. Again, you're getting so old already. I'm not old. I don't even drink yet. You're not as cute as you used to be. Hey, it would be far too much wool if I tried to knit you socks now at your age. A frail little lady such as myself might keel over before she could finish a single pair. I'm not sure if I describe my grandmother as frail, even though she is around 80 and she's as energetic as a small child passing notes and giggling in class. For Gio's sake, you'll have to do your best, lad. Why do people like to tease their grandchildren so much about marriage? They're really so stuffed with drama that they have to resort to something that cruel. Why can't they just watch TV soap operas like everyone else? Some of them are really good. But it just isn't fair at all. The fresh air feels good. I breathe in deeply. Although it sounds cliche, the air in the country really does feel more refreshing than air in the city. Maybe that's why my grandparents still act like children. Honestly teasing me like that. It's dark outside. I think it must be around 8 or 9 p.m. I mean, I'm not entirely sure. There are no large roads that run through the small village. As such, there are no need for street lamps. Oh god, sorry. That means when it starts to get dark here, it gets really dark. One would think it unsafe to wander around at night, the only visibility coming from the moon. But that isn't really true. Because so few people live here and everybody knows everyone else, the environment is safe. I don't feel any particular worry. In actuality, I was feeling more concerned sitting in the living room with my grandparents being teased about great-grandchildren and tiny knit socks with tiny newborn feet. I shudder. I know my grandparents got married when they were only 17, but I can't imagine starting a family that young. I do have my friends back in the city, Saki, Mio, and Yuna, but I wouldn't consider marrying them. The thought hadn't even crossed my mind. More importantly, I'm sure none of them would want to marry me either. Can't think of anything particularly attractive about me that would make me appealing to girls. I'd be more surprised than anything else if one of my female friends did decide to confess to me. In fact, I'd probably just assume it was all some kind of joke. And then there's Amy. I like her a lot. I've always have done. And we've known each other since we were little, but the thing about it seems kind of strange. It is true that I like her and that I've known her for far too long. She feels like a sister to me. I'm sure Amu knew I was seriously considering being in a relationship with her. She just laughed in my face. And then there's Noelle. No way. But the moment I think this, I start to feel guilty. I have to reprimand myself verbally, shaking my head at my own thoughts. It is true that Noelle was my closest friend for a very long period of time, but that is something I don't want to think about. After a few moments of musing, trying to force my brain to think of something less embarrassing than potential wives, I come to my senses. I realize without being really conscious of my own actions that I ended up here. I arrived at the small wooden building, separated from the rest of the village by fields and trees. It's a worn, ramshackle structure that stands all alone, seemingly to creak and moan in the wind. It's the school. The only school in the village. My old school, elementary, middle and high school combined. In the gathering dark, with the pale moon beginning to rise, the building looks like something from a ghost story. Eerie, sinister. I shiver, the cold wind snaking up my spine through my jacket. I didn't notice before, but it's getting pretty chilly. Maybe that's why I can't hear the cicadas. Shut. It's too cold for them, so they're all hiding. Makes the atmosphere feel strangely melancholy, as though something vital is missing. I don't really like being here. Makes me feel uneasy. I want to go back. Back to the future. I turn around, ready to retrace my steps when... Huh? I hear it. The faint creaking sound carried over some distance. If I were in a horror movie, this would be the noise that would signal my impending demise at the hands of some apparition from hell. However, even though I'm easily startled, I do know better than that. Although I don't like ghost stories, I'm sensible enough not to believe in them. Even though, as a child, I used to check my wardrobe for monsters every night before I went to bed. It isn't a completely alien noise. In fact, I recognize it. When I was younger, it was the sound I heard a lot. It was the sound of a swing. To be more precise, it's the sound of an old, rusty swing situated in the playground around the back of the school. That playground, overgrown with grass and flowers, was where I used to play during break time at school. Even though it was only contained a few swings and a slide, I still found it fun. Because there was so little playground equipment, a lot of the bigger children would get there first, shoving the younger ones out of the way. Remember, during that time, the 12-year-old Emma was remorseless. She would shout at the older kids and threaten to hit them, so they ran away in fear. That way, the younger children could play. I think the little kids saw Emma as some kind of hero because of her exploits. That really does take me back. But who's playing on those swings at night? I bet it's one of the kids from the village, even though they can't be too young or else they wouldn't be allowed out by themselves. Even though this village is relatively safe, no parent would want their child out by themselves in the cold. Not this guy. So, who could it be? I'm curious. Silently I walk around the back of the school building. I take a great care where I place my feet, trying to not make any noise. I don't know why, but I feel kind of excited. And also, I feel a little bit scared. My heart pounds in my chest. Thoughts trick over quickly, running through a list of possibilities. Maybe it is a ghost after all. The ghost of a young child playing on the swing in the middle of the night under the full moon. Yeah, right. As if I believe in something like that. I creep over the small park quietly. The wind rustles through the long grass, the surrounding trees. An owl hoots overhead. I walk closer, closer, and closer, and then my breath catches my throat. On the rusty swing, moving backwards and forwards through the air, I see her. A figure with pale skin shining under the moonlight. She's wearing a white dress, sleeveless, far too exposed for this weather, surely. Her arms are long and slender. Even at a distance, they look too thin, worryingly so, as though they could snap in two with the slightest bit of pressure. Her white skirts billow around her bare legs. Her hair flutters around her shoulders while the wind moves back and forth. With each movement I can hear it, the sound of the old swing set creaking and rotates. An eerie kind of wail mixed with the sound of the wind. It really does look like a ghost, dressed entirely in white with that pale hair and pale skin. One could be forgiven for letting out a cry of alarm, taking an involuntary step backwards out of fear, the heart stopping in their chest, eyes widening in surprise. A ghost girl playing on the swing in the darkness under the full moon. An aesthetic experience that would make for a beautiful photograph or a frightening campfire story. But I know it isn't true. This is no ghost. Even at a distance, even after 2 years, I know her. I recognize her face almost as quickly as I would recognize my own in the mirror. I've used that twice now. It's Noellen. I don't think she sees me. She's still swinging back and forth like a metronome. Should I go up to her? But what do I say? It's been 2 years. 2 whole years. That's a long time. Will she forgive me? Do I deserve to be forgiven? Is she angry? Is she upset? Does she feel betrayed? Or worst of all, does she feel indifferent? Does she no longer care for me at all? She certainly won't be the same girl who used to hide behind my back, cling to my shirt. Too much time has passed. But she's still Noelle. She's still my best friend. No matter how much time passes, that will never change. Right? But if that's really true, then why is my heart pounding so hard? Hey, what are you even thinking? As if you can just turn around and leave now. I muttered this under my breath, speaking harshly, as though trying to chastise myself. I can't turn around and leave. Not now. I know this. Even though I still feel nervous. But I can't let that worry get the better of me. I've been worrying about this for too long. I need to move forward. Hang on a second. This music is cool. The sound of my footsteps, weak and hesitant, mingle with the noise of the swing cracking in the breeze. My heart feels heavy, as though it's made of lead, dragging my body down. But I don't succumb. Can't. If I gave up now, what would she think? She'd probably hate me more than she already does. Can't afford to let her down. Not again. I don't want to betray her expectations. With this thought in mind, I enter the park. It's eerie, lit only by the light of the moon. I've only ever been here during the day before. Although I've known these friendly, familiar surroundings ever since I was little, they seem strange now. Foreboding. Almost like an alternate reality. I make my way over to the rusty old swing set and sit down on the spare swing beside Noelle. By this point she must have seen me. There's no way she couldn't, but she doesn't say anything. She just continues to swing back and forth, back and forth. Her eyes look misty and far away. Her pale hair shimmers in the moonlight. I can't help but think, even now, this must be some kind of mirage. It's all a dream. If I were to reach out and touch her, I feel as though my fingertips would poke right through her out to the other side. In that case, if it's a dream, it doesn't matter what I say. Summoning my courage even though my heart is beating so fast, it's a wonder it doesn't leap out my mouth. I start to talk. After 2 years, I introduce myself anew. Hey, Noelle? It's me. My voice is quiet, but she still hears me. Seeming to snap out of a trance, she turns her head to one side ever so slightly. Her eyes meet mine. They're large, light blue and lined with long lashes. She doesn't look surprised. Her expression doesn't flicker. Instead, she merely nods. A very slight acknowledgement, as though I'm any old acquaintance. An utterly meaningless person. But at least she stops swinging. Her emotions come to a halt. The grinding, creaking noise dies down, swallowed by the silence of the night, the sound of the wind. Somehow, without the noise, the atmosphere starts to feel even more intense. Although I've found that sound grating now, I almost wish to hear it back. That Noelle was still swinging. Then the rapid thud of my heartbeat wouldn't sound so surprisingly, stupidly loud. Noelle? I venture again, her voice shaking. In response, she nods her head. Is that really you? She gives another nod. It's a very slight motion, one that could easily be missed, but I catch it out the corner of my eye. Noelle was always like this, quiet. Do you recognize me? Chan? Her voice is so soft. She doesn't use my real name. Instead, it's the nickname. One Emmekins coined for me in childhood, which struck ever since. The mouth feels very nostalgic. Very warm. Yeah, it's me. Ah! Hatchet! You came back! Huh? Just for a little while, but I came back. I was still thinking of you the whole time. I've missed you. Hatchet. Noelle looks at me with her large, light blue eyes. Some people say that her intense gaze is disturbing, but I've never thought that. Silence encircles us. It takes Noelle a short while to piece together her thoughts and feelings. It's hardly surprising. It has been a long time since we last saw each other. A small smile, barely visible, begins to bloom on her lips. Hatchet, welcome home. The two of us sit here for a while, neither saying a word. The cold wind brushes against my skin, making me shudder. It takes me a while before I can find the words, dredging them up out of my head into my mouth. They are words I should have said long ago. Noelle, I'm sorry.
Huh? Why are you sorry? I don't understand.
You don't?
No.
Then you're not angry at me?
Why should I be angry?
Because I wince. Because I left you. It was so important to me, but I still left.
I know, but I'm not angry.
Really?
Yeah. It isn't your fault that your parents moved away. Why should I blame you for that?
Because even though we were so close, I was scared and worried you'd be upset. I didn't want to hurt you. I was a coward. I was weak and I never told you. It's right. The reason I felt so guilty is because of that. I never told my best friend I was leaving. One day, I was there eating lunch with her at school and doing our homework together. The next day I was gone. I told everyone else, but the one person I didn't tell was the one person who would care the most. And it was all because I was a coward, far too afraid to see her unhappy, too afraid to break the bad news. I really am the worst. Don't you feel betrayed?
Everything and everybody has to change at some point. Nothing stays the same forever.
But you were angry, right? Weren't you angry? Noelle tilts her head to one side, lips parted into a small O.
Do you want me to be?
Of course not, but
Then I won't be. I don't like being angry. It doesn't ever change anything. It only makes things more difficult. It's a pointless emotion.
But whether it has a point or not, I think that after what I did to you, you have the right to feel just a little bit angry.
Maybe I did. It feels a little bit sad, but not angry.
Sad?
That our fun times had came to an end so quickly. It was upsetting.
I don't even know who that is. I'm sorry. I didn't want to make you sad.
It's alright. I'm not sad anymore.
Why not? A cold breeze runs through the park, making me shudder. The hem of Noel's skirt ripples like ocean waves. Oh god, I'm ill. Ow. She always did dress in white, didn't she?
Because you came back. You came back to me and said sorry. So there's no reason to be sad. Not anymore.
And with those words, Noelle smiles at me. It's a gentle smile, devoid of malice. The two of us sit together for a while in companionable silence, for the love of and the moon. The rusty equipment of this old park bathed under the silver light from the moon, making the mundane look eerie and haunting. This really does feel like some kind of fantasy. The sharp feeling of metal against my bare fingers helps to keep me grounded. The cold burrows into my flesh, making my fingers spasm. Aren't you cold?
Not really.
You sure you don't want my jacket?
I'm sure.
But you're wearing a sleeveless dress. That can't be comfortable, can it?
I'm used to it. People can get used to a lot of things.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I did move to the city after all.
I don't think I'd like to live in the city.
I don't know if you'd say that if you could see the convenience stores out there. You can buy almost anything you want, all around the clock. Isn't that amazing?
Hey?
Yeah, anything. Even those Jello drinks that you like so much.
Jello? Do they have all kinds of different flavors?
Yeah, all different kinds. They're big convenience stores, you know.
Really? Really?
Well, it isn't a lie. Why would I lie about something so trivial? Noelle leans forward on the seat of a swing. It creaks as she does so. There's a strangely happy expression on her face that I never usually see. She looks more confused. Even her cheeks look a little flushed.
Is there even strawberry jello?
Of course there is. That's a common flavor.
And melon?
Yes.
Wow! And grapefruit and kiwi and apple and melon and grape and lychee and bean paste and blueberry and coffee and pineapple and passion fruit and lemon and plum?
I think I didn't hear every single thing you said, but, probably? And yet, despite my lackluster reply, Noella seems satisfied. With a dreamy sigh, she smiles brightly. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, convenience stores really are amazing. If you live in the city, you don't need to walk 40 minutes to the next town to get some jello. What an age we're living in. It really is convenient, huh? Hence the term convenience store. But that's no good. It's no good at all. Huh? But you're excited by all the jello. I am excited by the jello. All girls love jello. I don't know if that's true, but I don't interrupt. But if the store sells this jello is only a few minutes away, buying it won't be so much fun. Fun? Yeah. If you have to walk a long way to buy something, you feel like you've tried hard. So it's okay to reward yourself with a treat for your efforts. If your goal is only 5 minutes away, because you can buy a lot of jello whenever you want, it would feel less special. Less special, huh? Yeah. Things that have the most worth if you can have them all the time whenever you want.